This is perfect for the Edmonton Oilers as they make a surprise signing in former Washington Capital Andrew Mangiapane, someone who hopes to bolster the Oilers' scoring as we go into the next NHL season. Hello everyone, welcome back to Oilers Digest. My name is Nikash Ganguli. Hope you guys are having an amazing day, an amazing time whenever you are watching this video. We have a huge Oilers signing to discuss today as Andrew Mangiapane, former Calgary Flames, where Oilers fans might know him the most, and former Washington Capital, is now a Edmonton Oiler. But before we get into what he could bring to the team, make sure you guys, of course, do subscribe to the channel. We are currently at 80% of viewers who are not subscribed. So let's get that number even lower, guys. We just hit 3,600 subscribers. That is a huge milestone for the channel. And we're going to be providing you guys with content updates for the Oilers on the channel as much as we can. Whenever the updates come out, we will be covering them here on Oilers Digest. So it's really easy. Right down below, hit that subscribe button if you want all the Oilers content in the most digestible fashion here on Oilers Digest. But I spent a lot of time on the intro. Let's get into the news. Okay, here we go. First things first. From the Edmonton Oilers themselves, the Oilers have signed forward Andrew Mangiapane to a 2-year contract with an average annual value of $3.6 million. Not a bad contract at all for Andrew Mangiapane. Essentially, they swapped out Victor Arvidsson's money at about $4 million for Andrew Mangiapane. They have similar statistical outputs, but it was apparent that the Victor Arvidsson experiment was not working in Edmonton. So it does make sense to try to kind of trade him away. We talked about that in the video yesterday. If you guys do want to check that out as well, that you ship him out, you bring in Mangiapane, just mix it up a little. So I like this move a lot for the Edmonton Oilers, of course. Now, if we do look over at very popular Twitter analyst guy and writes for The Athletic, Dom Lucian, has been very good at posting these practically all free agency, all offseason. He says, a perfectly fair deal for Andrew Mangiapane as a top 9 guy, but there could be some upside here if the Oilers use him in a top 6 role. So he's a market value at about $3.5 million and signed him for 3.6. So realistically, you got perfect market value on Mangiapane. Not an overpay, not underpay, but a perfect deal is a perfect deal. As we can say, it's a solid deal in free agency. In free agency, we tend to see that players get overpaid a lot. In this case, Stan Bowman did a good job of getting Andrew Mangiapane for exactly what he is worth. So now we have dove into the contract and its value and whether or not it's a good contract. I think it's a good contract. Let me know in the comments, of course, if you guys don't love it or if you love it, or maybe you're just okay with it. I think it's a great contract for the Oilers. Let's dive into his regular season stats here. If we do look over here, he did have his big contract here in 2021-2022 where he had 35 goals and 55 points. He was very good that year. I remember he kicked off the season scoring an insane amount of goals. He was up there with like the Draisaitls and Matthews and the Ovechkins in terms of scoring pace. Did trail off a bit, but still a very solid season. The next year, he only had 17 goals and 14 and 14. So it seems like he's kind of at this 15-goal, 45, 50-point player. Really nothing too crazy. He did get a nice contract extension in that 35-goal season where he got $5.3 million for 3 years, and that is why the Calgary fans eventually had to move off him, because he simply was not worth that much. And he did see a big ice time dip in Washington 3 minutes less than before, and he still scored the same amount of goals when he was playing 16 minutes. So in his goals per 60, if you want to look at that, were probably much higher in this past year than they were in 2022, 2023, 2024. But overall, a decent goal scorer, pretty consistent aside from that 35-goal season, which might have been an outlier, probably a really high shooting percentage that year. So honestly, pretty good get for the Oilers. I think it's a very solid guy you can play in your middle six. I don't know if he's going to be on the second line or the third line, but that will remain to be seen based on what Kris Knoblauch tells us as we get closer to September. It's only July, so we got a lot of time to think about that. Now, what a lot of people might not know about someone like Mangiapane or not remember, as you can see, that 2022 season, there was high expectations for him to become a consistent 30-goal guy, but he did actually have a shoulder injury after that season and did have to get surgery for it. As you can see, he had surgery on April 25th, 2023. This article might have been updated as well, but he did have a shoulder injury that would impact his scoring. I mean, of course, if you're, we're just regular people, we're not shoulders hurt, of course, that kind of ruins our days. But if you're an NHL hockey player and you're supposed to be a prolific goal scorer, I'm sure having shoulder injury and shoulder surgery and all the recovery and stuff like that is not easy. So that could be a main reason why his goal scoring tipped off. And maybe a couple years later in Edmonton, he's ready to come back, ready to come into training camp and rediscover that 30-goal scoring touch, which would make that contract unbelievably valuable. Now, we gotta talk about a little bit of a knock on Mangiapane, which is, of course, his playoff stats here. If we do look at them, in the past playoff run with the Washington Capitals, he played 10 games. He only had 2 points. That is not a lot, not very good. If you are an Oilers fan, you do want playoff performers, but you do need guys that are good from October to April or to March, and March-ish, and Mangiapane is that guy. He is 5'10", about 183 it says there, so he's not huge, but I think he'll be fine with the Oilers. He'll be in a decent offensive skilled system with guys like McDavid and Draisaitl. So the 2 points is a little bit scary if you are an Edmonton Oilers fan. And even in total, he only has 14 and 37, which isn't that bad given the kind of role he plays. Maybe last game was a little bit of an outlier, but I think personally this is a very smart move for the Edmonton Oilers. Essentially, like I said in the beginning of the video, swapping out Arvidsson for Mangiapane. It does make sense. They were connected with him for a long time. Right when free agency started, even like after the draft, there was a lot of rumors about the Oilers and Mangiapane, and I think it does make sense. The signing did break at like 11 p.m. yesterday, which is why the video didn't go up a little earlier. But I think it's a good signing for them. There's really nothing that could go wrong unless there's another Arvidsson redux where they have to trade him again next year for a fifth. But if you do, you didn't lose anything for him. You got him for free in free agency. All it did was cost the Oilers money, and NHL franchises, they kind of have unlimited money because it's a bunch of billionaires owning them. So it's really not that bad. And I think Oilers fans also might be a little familiar with him from the Battle of Alberta when he did play in Calgary. So you have some experience with him in that mindset. So we looked at the raw production. We looked at the contract. Now let's dig into a little bit of the advanced analytics here from, of course, Hockey Twitter's favorite advanced analytics person. We have to look at Jay Fresh. So Jay Fresh over here, he says Mangiapane is a very solid player. As you can see in 2022-2023, in terms of WAR percentile, he was in the 50% rank, but he has climbed up decently this season. It was a bounce-back season from the past year in Calgary, so he did do good in Washington despite playing fourth line ice time, third line ice time-ish. So he didn't see a lot with the star players in Washington, like the Ovechkins of the world. But as you can see in the left, even strength offense in the 82nd percentile contributors there. Same thing with even strength defense. He was actually pretty solid there. Some people might not see him as like a plus defender, but he's not gonna win you a Selke trophy or anything. But certainly a plus defender there. And then assists, contribution also not that bad. So he's overall a solid player. The raw production isn't that bad for the role he's in, and the advanced analytics also signal that he is a solid player, and only 29 too, so really not that old. So we have talked about the contract, the raw production, the advanced analytics. What is going on now with the Oilers now that Andrew Mangiapane is on the books? So first things first, we do have this really interesting tweet to look at from Paul Almeida, Almeida, maybe, if I pronounce that name wrong. It's important, like, I wouldn't really look at the lines there, but I think it's important to look at the bottom there. They want a player with size, grit, and truculence. They have guys like Jones and Frederick for that. Maybe they need more. You did trade someone like Evander Kane, who was literally that, so maybe bring in someone cheaper. An interesting thing to point out is like the Leafs, for example, who brought in a player like Michael Pezzetta on League Man. Maybe the Oilers do something like that. And then, so right now out, you have Corey Perry, who's with LA, Evander Kane, who signed with or was traded to Vancouver. Connor Brown's gone. Victor Arvidsson is gone. Jeff Skinner's still a free agent. And right now you have Andrew Mangiapane. Savoie and Phillip, I wouldn't really count. These are guys who, I guess they didn't get regular minutes, so that doesn't make sense in the lineups. And then they also signed Curtis Lazar, which we'll have a video on the channel about that very, very soon. And again, if we do look at daily faceoff figure, these are projected lines. Nugent, McDavid, Hyman, Mangiapane, Draisaitl, Pod closing. I think you could see Mangiapane and Frederick switch depending on play style. Same thing with Savoie, that could be interesting. And then you could also see guys like Henry and Janmark also on their way out, given what the Oilers try to do in free agency as well. But they might have to do that because they don't have a lot of cap space. They have $175,000 in cap space after the Mangiapane deal is on the books. Nothing too crazy. The Oilers might swap out some guys. I think Sam Bowman said they did want a different mix of players. Mangiapane is certainly a different mix from what they had last year, especially with Corey Perry being gone and, Savoie coming in, Evander Kane being gone, and, Arvidsson being gone, Mangiapane coming in. A lot of stuff going on here. So quickly, before we do get out of here, Here is the Oilers forward cap structure: Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman. Everyone is practically signed. They do have a decent amount of youth and experience and skill and grit. Maybe bringing one more physically imposing player wouldn't be bad. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think of the Andrew Mangiapane signing. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Was it okay? Let me know in the comments, guys. With that being said, it's been Nick. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys hit subscribe. And, of course, we will see you in the next one here on Oilers Digest. Peace out and have a good one.